Welcome back, everybody, to the Who's Accountable podcast. My name is Mahaya Abdul Kawi. I am the creator and the host of the Who's Accountable podcast, as well as the founder and a representative of the Accountability Party for Human Rights. Who we are as a organization, we are a collection of individuals who have devoted our lives to a mission to provide resources and services to the working class oppressed people across this country of the United States of America. And it is through platforms such as the Who's Accountable podcast where we take time to discuss matters at hand uh, um, that directly affect these working class people. And it's on this platform where we will expose those actions, and maybe if the people highlighted in the events that we will talk about, if there was more accountability involved, maybe there would have been a better outcome for themselves and for the greater good. Uh, so before I go into my video, I would like to explain to those that have been watching, to the few people out there, I would like to apologize. I've had some time off just dealing with personal matters, and really just readjusting to a post-COVID world, really just taking time to just be in the moment and see the transition and that is currently taking place, and taking time to still take notes and be aware of different things that's happening. Since my last video was probably like a week and a half ago, there has been a lot of things that have occurred within our country and a broader global world. There's been a lot going on. So although there is much to be discussed, I figured as a way to come back, I wanted to just start it off, you know, focusing on one individual specifically. And that person, which will lead me into today's episode, is the 46th president of the United States of America, Joe Biden. And the reason why I want to talk about Biden is because I believe it's been in almost 100 days since he has been in office, or just about. No. I think it's, yeah, no. His 100 days has passed, so now we're, 100 plus days into his administration, and I really want to highlight something specific, two things specifically, that at the beginning of his administration, as well as during his campaign, he has said two things that would have set the standard in terms of how he plans on moving forward with solving the current climate that is the United States of America. So the first thing that he has done is compare himself to Franklin D. Roosevelt. For those that don't, for those that did not pay attention in history class, FDR, as he's more so commonly shortened to, was the president that is the only president to see three terms, and that is because he was president in a time in America's history where we were facing two major crises at the same time. Not directly at the same time, but one overlapped into the other one, and it was an extension. But what I am talking about is the Great Depression of the 1930s, followed going into World War II, more so our involvement in World War II. So Franklin D. Roosevelt, FDR, he was the president during this time, and although there are many critiques many can make, whether you're conservative, liberal, progressive, more moderate, black, white, depending on your demographic, you will probably have some critiques, where he either lacked or could have not done it all. But I think it's overall a if you're into history, if you're into what each president has provided, by far he has definitely handled a lot of programs that are still around today, or have affected a lot in terms of how programs are handled today. He was the one that introduced not just the first New Deal, but the second New Deal, which were essentially his his agendas for fixing the U.S. economy at the time of the Great Depression, as well as handling this growing threat that was Germany during World War II, as well as the expansion of Japan in Asia. So again, this is where he was at and everything he's done. I think overall he got us through it. Where post depression in World War II, America became the leader of the free world. We became a not a dictator, no, but we dictated the moral ground and the what is it, the pedestal. We put ourselves on the pedestal as a shining example for any modern country that wanted to become something more. It was post World War II where we established this kind of reign, this power, this imagery. So, and with that little mini history lesson aside, Biden wanted to compare himself to FDR in terms of, and only what I can assume is that he believes um, he's going to come in at a time when our nation is crippled, our nation is broken, and literally have this, I guess, this same sweeping effects of passing bills in his first 100 days, which compared to FDR is very minimum. FDR in his first 100 days of being president was firing off bill after bill after bill, addressing this from agriculture and the farms to the transportation to fixing the banks in terms of taking away all the banks on that are pretty much bad for what people were investing in. That he was doing all this stuff, as well as focusing on like the foreign policies too, because since we were going through depression, other countries as well too. It wasn't just America too. So he was literally just handling everything in this time span. Of course, he had a 4 years in his first term, 4 years in the second term, and a little bit of a third term. So he overall he was literally doing so much. But in his first 100 days is when he was firing off. Biden hasn't really done anything besides really do the COVID relief package and pass the Asian American protection, and those are good things. The people, especially at the time when he got into office, the American people, we needed it because we were experiencing our last major wave, for what we know, of COVID. And it was hitting hard, where everything that was shitty before, it just became a massive piling of shit. So that was beneficial. And then he passed other things too. I'm really shorting it down, but it wasn't on the same level, where it's you can't come into office and say, I am going to pretty much be the modern FDR when you haven't achieved FDR level status in terms of delivering to the people. The only common denominator that FDR and Biden have is that they both they both came into office at a time where the country is broken financially, socially, and there's so many cracks around the board where, again, like people have said, this is the first time since the 30s and the early 40s that America has had several crises all at once. And it's that thing where if you've been observant of all the things that have occurred in America prior to COVID, you would have known that we were in a crisis for a very long time. I don't think COVID really started anything new, except for more it exposed everything that was there. It made it apparent and then made it worse. It didn't cause anything though. Like there wasn't any problem. Anything that COVID may have caused, if you look into it, was already happening before the pandemic started. So besides Biden comparing himself to FDR, I also want to talk about a phrase that he has campaigned on that truly frustrates me whenever his administration bring it up in terms of inspiring hope for the people. And again, that's that little key thing too, inspiring hope. Before I go into his campaign slogan, I want to talk about that major difference as well too. FDR had a confidence where even though a lot of his beliefs and his way of going about things, although there was some controversy, again, depending on what demographic you were, there was controversy for those against FDR. The confidence that he carried when he came into office reassured the American people that we're going to be okay. So again, even through the moments of, I don't know if this guy is going to help us get through it, his confidence was that saving hope. And not only was it his confidence, but FDR kind of operated in a very gray area of things where he kind of bounced back and forth between liberal and conservative. And not just personally with himself, but his cabinet, his administration. I believe he was also the first to really rely on his advisors as well, too, and give his advisors more responsibility in terms of, their opinion. Almost as if it was like a Greek, ancient Greek, the leader with his philosophers around him. That's kind of how FDR approached things. Of course, he still had his other, like specifics, like the secretary and the other positions I can't think of. But he had those as well. But, he implemented new tactics that wasn't seen yet. Where, again, you can critique it. And there's a lot of things that I personally don't agree that he has done. But overall, he was moving. Like, he was getting things done. And he was willing to, be malleable to try those things out. And his cabinet, his administration was also a mix of politicians who were either left and right. So we look at Biden's administration, and it is the most neoliberal, mainstream corporate Democrats I've ever fucking seen. With the exception of Bernie Sanders, who unfortunately may have seemed to sold his mouth to the devil. I believe his heart's still in a good place and all, but his tendency to be outspoken is definitely faded heavily. His cabinet all have the same agenda. They all have the same funder, the same corporations. So it's really like, not only is Biden swayed, but his whole cabinet is swayed. So they're all literally swayed by the same people. So are they really different? But to this campaign slogan, restore the soul of America. this catchphrase, restore the soul of America, is such a PC version. And I think I've said this before in previous episodes, but restore the soul of America is his version of saying make America great again. So for MSNBC, CBS, CNN, Vox, whatever other, mainstream media that wants to pretend that he is so different from Donald Trump, look at that statement. Return the soul of America. Make America great again. They're both the same fucking statement, bro. One just sounds fancier because he has soul and restoring it. It's like he's almost speaking to his fucking college-based fans. Trump had the dumbed down version because his fan base is dumber, but that's been proven false as well too. And it's really in his words on the night of his victory, our nation is shaped by the constant battle between our better angels and our darkest impulses. It's time for our better angels to prevail. Okay. Okay. Let's see how 5.5 months later, are we choosing our better angels, Biden? So let's talk about his restore the soul of America with his infrastructure bill. The Biden administration is looking to spend around $1 trillion on infrastructure, focusing mostly on transportation, water, and broadband. According to the White House site, um, it says that the American Jobs Plan is an investment in America that will create millions of good jobs, rebuild our country's infrastructure, and position the United States to outcompete China. Let's slowly but surely you're gonna start seeing the Cold War pop up in the media. And it's funny because the media is also the ones who would have you believe that there is no Cold War, but you see how slowly but surely beating China is becoming a beating drum again, if you will. There's another line on the website on the White House website where he says, like great projects of the past, the president's plan will unify and mobilize the country to meet the great challenges of our time, the climate crisis and the ambitions of an autocratic China. It doesn't really sound like he's using the infrastructure to focus on restoring the soul. Accountability for your slogan, Biden. You have to be able to hear what you're saying and look at your actions and have a moment to yourself where you realize I'm not doing my job that I said I was coming in to do. And it's funny again how it's trying. I love how he says that the greatest challenges of our time, climate crisis and the ambitions of an autocratic China. China isn't doing anything that is new, not compared to what the United States has been doing forever, what Great Britain has been doing before that, and every other dominant country that has spread control. China is just a new one, and America can accept the fact that it is going to fall. This is almost like when Britain fought us during the Revolutionary War, and how that was a nail on a coffin for their empire. Slowly but surely, of course, they had some time after where they were government force, and then, well, no, I want to say the Revolutionary War was not the nail in the coffin. It was putting them in the coffin. Hitler blowing them up to smithereens was a nail on the coffin. But you see this. But instead of accepting, the fate as Britain has done, where I feel like since the Revolutionary War, leading through the 1800s, going up until World War II, especially after World War One, you found that Britain was definitely losing its main control. Like in every 50 years, it seemed like it was going down. America, on the other hand, we're going through that downward spiral without any form of talk about it. Like, I understand not accepting that you're losing, but at the same time, you have to have conversation. It'll be different if there was a conversation and you're like, no, I don't believe it. But there's no conversation at all. And that is the real kicker to this whole fucking story, honestly. And to really see, China as a main problem when, the great challenge is, it's how can you say that they're a challenge when the corporations that run your domestic policy, the American corporations, are offshoring all the responsibility off to China? So how are we fighting the ambitions now when the corporations that you also work for are also doing this? So it's a bunch of fucking lies, bro. Restore the soul of America, right, Biden? The White House site also says that the past year has led to job losses and threatened economic security, eroding more than 30 years of progress in women's labor force participation. Eroding more than 30 years of progress in women's labor force participate. I don't want to go deep into this side footnote, but if COVID really helped women see that, what I'm about to say is going to be a very all-filtered thing from the overall video, but it needs to be spoken up more of. woman, although yes, for an individual, if pursuing a career is what you really want to do, then go a fucking head. But by nature, although having a job is nice, there are other priorities that will make a woman happier. I'm not saying that, again, having a job is nice. You can have a job. But as a woman gets older, there are things that will generally make her happy. And you know what that not, and you want to know what won't make them happy? Having a career that literally, to become successful in it, you have to sacrifice something. A quality trait biologically in men that we have, which is why men are able to be single until the fucking day they die and devote their whole lives to a job. It's because in our nature, when it comes for the hunt, yes, I know the hunt sounds like an old barbarian term, but in terms of 2021, the hunt is having a high-paying job, something a man will literally hunt for the rest of his life for. Women are more social beings. So again, although in 2021 you have the freedom to be a high, strong career woman, go right the fuck ahead. For them on their website to say the last year has eroded, it goes into the fact that, people don't want to go back to their jobs because they want to be lazy and rely on unemployment. Restore the soul of America. You're lying. People are realizing that they don't want to be servants. They don't want their body, their skills to be exploited and maximized off while you get your wallets fatter and mine are barely struggling to stay fucking curvy. Wallets are anorexic. So that's just people in general specifically. So if you have women who realize, wait a minute, my family hasn't been doing strong because I've been so focused on my job. Or maybe there's things that I could do at home that will make me happier, where I can still be a successful woman, but not have to, be in these environments where I feel like I have to sacrifice my femininity, my, these special qualities for the sake of making a profit. Capitalism has lied to the American woman and told them all that the more you become like men, the better you will be. But here's the kicker. Men had these qualities of, being ambitious in the career space, blah, 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 without spending that much. Unless you had, again, even men with a lot of money, they're very conservative with how they spend it. So you can't tell me women who are statistically known to spend more. You see this correlation with capitalism literally forcing these images and brainwashing. Don't be upset, capitalism, when women finally realize what the fuck is up. But, again, that's a very side note. I would love to come back into it. Actually, yes, no, I'll come back to that at a later date. Specifically more in that, how capitalism has affected not just, the broad sense of working class, but individually on a gender level, what it's done to make men and women not unite in a family, in a community sense against these rich motherfuckers who hide away with their perfect families, quote unquote. Restore the soul of America, Joe. So, outside of infrastructure, which is not happening at all because it has not even passed, while, again, this infrastructure bill will fund a lot of the manufacture of a lot of essential ingredients and just common items that we as Americans have gotten accustomed to having. We're seeing a shortage, and I'll get to that later. But you see how this infrastructure bill being, because he, instead of having a administration like FDR, the person he's claiming to become, who had liberal and conservative people in his cabinet to give him ideas so that way he, as the leader, can make the final decision, Biden is allowing these liberals and these fucking conservatives who aren't even his cabinet, who are in Congress, to fucking fight about it. And he's not making the final decision at all. They are. He's come up with ideas and he's allowing these people who aren't very popular with the American people, by the way, to say the final decision. Should be the other fucking way around. So let's talk about how much money the states receive from the federal funding that was passed in the COVID relief bill. So $350 billion to state, city, local funding, and it broke down into like this. So states as well as DC, the District of Columbia, each received $195.3 billion. Counties received $65.1 billion, and metropolitan cities received $45.6 billion. Tribal governments $20 billion, and territories $4.5 billion. However, not only did they receive $350 billion from the federal government, but several states also received a nice surprising rebound in fiscal profits because of America greedily caring about our return to normalcy. These states now have seen a nice profit because of things reopening. California specifically has I believe $75 billion extra. Specifically, California, the state that was struggling a while ago, just has a bunch of fucking money. And the most extreme homeless crisis out of any state in the United States of America. So let's see by December where this pretty much over 200 something billion dollars that California has. Let's see where that fucking goes, shall we? And we will be documenting and highlighting it to a fucking T. So, let's just see how each state could handle this extra money, because it's the thing where it probably won't be seen at all. I'm not going into hopefulness, especially when you look around the country with the ban on evictions in some places about to be lifted. Specifically, something that I've been noticing in the state of Pennsylvania, where I'm from, Philadelphia, born and raised. Currently, what is going on there in the crack opioid capital of the East Coast in Kensington, an area that has seen mass gentrification in the last 5 years. I've seen it personally firsthand. Is having one of the craziest homeless crises in the East Coast city, as well as a shining example of the opioid crisis. All fueled even more by the COVID pandemic. So where's this money that's supposed to be for the people? Why can't you pay out all these fucking old abandoned buildings that you keep buying, or that you keep allowing these scummy ass landlord lobbyists to fucking buy for the sake of building more rented out apartments or rented out houses? You could be using the money that you receive to use those specifically as shelters, as places where the homeless can go and receive opportunity to go back into a society functional. Yes, it will be an investment, but it will be cheaper long term. You notice how fucking capitalists never think long term. They never do. They only do when it comes to their pockets. They could hire more state and local government workers. This is something all the FDR did in several different programs that he started. Few didn't last long, but for the most part, a lot of them did, where he had them focus on agriculture, trees and just nature, like help the agriculture, which, created more farmers and planters and people who focused on, the physical aspects, as well as, again, state and local government jobs. You can hire more people to handle more aspects of your local government, so that way these local cities and townships and counties can actually function more with more people able to, provide services. You can fund education. a lot of public schools. They would rather these charter schools, instead of fix public schools, they would rather just start something new like a charter school, when it's literally the same fucking thing, just with a fancier name. It's just these charter schools are run by the same people who are gentrifying these major cities, and they want to make it look pretty by saying, "Oh yeah, we're helping the urban communities, the black and brown people." Shut the fuck up, honestly. Public transportation, the homeless crisis again. Broadband service, I think we've realized how without schools for a lot of children, not every house in America has internet. I know that makes America mad, especially when China's out here thriving with their tech and how they aim to make sure everybody has those basic. Again, I'm not praising China, but you see how these things could definitely piss off the American government, and anything that pisses off America makes me happy. Tourism, travel, hospitality businesses in places where I feel like it's a dominant force. So like Los Angeles, Miami, DC, New York City. I'm saying different places that draw tourism. Yeah, focus, and help regain that back. Help these cities and all. But even then, you could even work to make every part of America carry something. It doesn't have to be. You have to, offshore all the special things to these major cities, which is already a problem already, because this is what fuels the frustration of like a lot of Midwestern, a lot of Southern states, because they feel like they're not getting, besides Texas, and we're about to get to fucking Texas in a minute. It's just these places and all, they all have something to offer that should receive proper funding, because if each state receives a good amount where they can each invest, you will find that every state here in America could provide a healthy infrastructure in each individual way. You just can't focus on the major states or cities and think that the rest is going to fall apart, because then you're just not helping this lack of distribution of wealth. Congress sent out $45 billion alone in rental assistance to help the tenants as well as the landlords. And while there has been some organized effort to get the money out to the people, it has been slowly making its way out. This is something that you can find on CNBC. They've had a recent article where they talked about this. The National Low Housing Coalition is an amazing site, actually. Please check it out. I'll repeat it. The National Low Housing Coalition. On this site, you can see a state-by-state breakdown in terms of pretty much what it costs to survive in these places, and it's really eye-opening. It's really fucking eye-opening. But according to the stats based on recent months, it says 33 state and local rental assistance programs were readily accessible public spending have on average distributed less than 1/5 of their funding. So that means that Biden sent this out hoping that everybody has his same mentality, restore the soul of America, and then only 1/5 out of these state and local assistance programs throughout the country have only distributed 1/5 of the funding. 1/5, even though the relief was signed into law almost 6 months ago now. While there's been a push to extend eviction moratoriums, resistance from landlords and lawmakers have been fighting to not only end the ban, but to immediately evict everyone out. Immediately evict everyone out. That means that these people, as well as hoarding 4/5 of the money towards themselves, these landlords who are probably getting a lot of the bulk of the funding over the tenants, because again, landlords are partnering with lobbyists and lawmakers they want to evict people so that way they can remodel their homes and fucking skyrocket the fucking prices of rent. A federal judge in Texas, while not having yet issued an injunction yet, has gone on file to say that which would leave millions in the state of Texas homeless, especially as the summer moves on into the fall, where this past winter proved that their grid is fucked. Again, what I was saying earlier, if each state had a balanced infrastructure funding where it wasn't, yes, each state has their own specific things, and of course you can allocate certain money for those specific things, but if you give each state a basis, be like, this is what's going to fix up then the power grid situation that Texas is going through, even right now in the fucking summertime, would not be a thing. And Texas, which is so quick to be proud, to be like, oh, we're different. And this goes back to the fucking Civil War. They want to be so goddamn independent. Your state is falling apart. And you're out here trying to evict more homeless people. I mean, you're trying to evict more people, which is going to become more homeless. And you're going to have a crisis. And then you're going to blame Biden and blame this. Yes, Biden is at fault, but Texas, you must hold yourself accountable as well too to the fuckery that you're doing down there. It's just all connected. Where it's like, again, as a president who wants to be FDR, you need to go down there and force the governor of Texas to get his fucking head out of his ass and fix this. For a state that wants to be like, oh, we have everything coming. We're better than California. We're better than this. Shut up. One of the Koch brothers, I love how their fucking last name is Koch. I've always thought that was funny. Charles Koch has been lobbying with 3 conservative organizations that have been adamant on ending the eviction moratorium, while also being one of the million billionaires who are now buying up land and housing across the country. The housing crisis. You know, and you know what? It's that thing where the housing crisis that we're currently facing is billionaires are buying up everything at the speed of fucking light. At the speed of light. Because nobody else can afford it, because they're quickly demanding, you know, these houses in their name by paying out cash, by doing everything like that, because everybody was getting kicked out of their houses. So here comes the billionaires come swooping in and buying it up, which is making other houses more expensive because the banks and the real estate agents, you know, they only want to sell to people that can, you know, buy things in cash, because that's how the shit works, you know. First come, first buy. And that's how it works. And of course, because, and again, I'll bring it up shortly, you know, with the shortage of raw materials, especially materials that are needed to build houses, there's not that many houses out there that can be bought up. And the ones that are being bought up by the rich. So then we're going to have more homeless. Wall Street is trying to sell the idea that people don't want to buy houses, and that's a bunch of bullshit. How can you say that when they don't have the opportunity to buy houses? If people had the chance to buy houses, I firmly believe that they would decide themselves if we want to be a renting nation or a mortgage nation. And it's crazy how the American dream is literally a house, not a fucking apartment. But according to Wall Street, again, like I've been saying, corporations, they run our domestic policy, and the Pentagon runs our foreign policy. And because the corporations and the landlords who are now the corporations, because they say it's going to be a rent nation, we're going to be a fucking rent nation. Come on, man. They can't dictate that. We do. The people that live in these houses. Y'all live in mansions, condos, skyscrapers. Live up there. Live in the suburbs. Low house production is a trend that could persist for a while because builders are unable to deliver more houses because of expensive lumber. And that's why we're low on supplies. Because we rely too much on fucking China for everything. He's trying to, our good old Biden, restore the soul of America, asshole. Biden is trying to initiate manufacture bills that will focus on producing pharmaceuticals, semiconductor chips, large capacity batteries, which is commonly found in electric vehicles. The push that is currently happening in the United States for more electric vehicles. According to a senior administration official, for too many years we've let our production capacity for critical goods migrate overseas rather than making investments to support U.S. manufacturing and U.S. workers. That's not going to change just because you put in a fucking PR statement. China's still going to... How much we owe them? Fam, we eat out of their pockets. They literally have press conferences in China about how it's easy to manipulate Americans because all they care about is profit. You can talk about, oh, for too many years we've been offshoring everything. But as long as you're getting profit, guess who's going to fund your next campaign, bro? China at the end of the day. And we get mad at Russia. Look who's really involved in our fucking politics. The corporations that fund you are the same ones getting profit from China. And the profit goes right to your... Restore the soul of America, Joe. The White House has also increased its push to work with allies and partners on imports of materials, particularly on semiconductors, because there's a shortage of chips for computers and pretty much anything technological, which is everything nowadays because we live in a techno advance. But I see this as code for as U.S. and its main allies, mostly like probably Canada, UK, a lot of European places are scared of the growing threat of China. I don't think there's any threat. If anything, I think China's just doing what every new major power does when they receive power. So it's just more so they want to call it a threat because America can't accept the fact that we're losing. According to NPR, there was a review, to on NPR, the review insists any long-term change would require deeper investment, such as the major infrastructure plan that remains up for debate in Congress. It hasn't even passed yet. Many tech CEOs, such as Intel CEO, believe that although Biden is pushing conductor production, even if it passes, it will take up to 2 to 3 years to get back on track, which means now that the way things were operating before was they never planned for anything at all. I think like supply demand across the board never planned, which shows how we just operate. We're so short term thinking, long term when it comes to greed. It's like, bro, like you don't have a doomsday button. Let's talk about which items are actually in shortage. Your computer chips, the automotive industry, which is a huge, which these chips go for now, especially a lot of modern cars. It will have lost a $61 billion in revenue from the shortage of chips. It's kind of similar. Car makers have been forcing down plans to prioritize specific models, while car prices at the dealership have gone up because there's very few cars. So it's like the housing market. Because they can't make houses, because they can't make cars, whatever is left, you have to drive up the prices. And guess who can only afford them? The rich. Because nobody else has any chance of... They didn't have any money saved up before the pandemic. The pandemic, yeah, we got a little bit extra, but that shit's not going to fucking last. Used cars or rental cars, because of the shortage, because of the shortage of chips, old cars and rental cars have actually gone up in price. Axios reports that the average price of a used car has hit $17,609. Pretty high for a car, which probably before would have been around $10K or less. USB note estimated in April prices for used cars rose up the most in the last 68 years, from 8.2 to 9.3. Renting cars is harder because of heavy demand but low supply, because there's no cars for them to go. But good news for all this though, right, is that older cars, if you're trying to sell, you can probably get a lot more for your old car now. Gas, between Texas, which is who has a fifth of the country's oil refining factories, when they were hit by the freeze this past winter and their power grid due to lack of infrastructure failed, that affected the overall gas supplies, as well as the attack. I think it was a ransomware attack that happened in early May, late April on the East Coast, affecting gas as well. Plastic and palm oil, Texas again, a major of plastic exports, because they were affected with the power grid. Plastic production is also going to go down. Truckers, before COVID, there was an exodus of drivers in 2019. Reported at the time that this was a bloodbath of sorts. Trucking companies saw profits fall, with some even going bankrupt. Post now, truckers don't want to, it's a very shortage of truck labor. And meanwhile, when in March, April, Uber and Lyft saw an increase of ride orders since February, but more than half of the drivers have stopped working because of, especially in California, with Prop 22 being a whole bunch of bullshit of lies and them tricking the drivers to support a cause that long term was not going to have any benefit for the drivers. Homes and vacation homes, we already kind of broke that down. Lumber, kind of broke that down in terms of building houses already. There's a shortage because manufacturing stopped during COVID.
to protect, people. So, house are growing up. Products, household products, toilet paper, tampons, baby care, baby products. Your diapers was already pretty expensive beforehand. That's a common thing. Furniture, because of demand of people being home and people having more time to reorganize or turn their homes into a daycare, a workspace, and all. The demand for new furniture has also gone up, where now a lot of furniture companies are predicting most people won't get their orders until 6 to 8 months later, and a lot of the parts come from China. And because there's a global shipping container shortage right now, where California is a major hub of that, it's you're delaying what's coming in, especially as we're going through again a trade wars, which is code for a new Cold War with China. It all affects chicken, hot dogs, and bacon. All food products that are being affected, especially hot dogs and bacon. That of June last year, there was a COVID outbreak at several factories, at least 167, forcing 40 plants to close. So 4th of July is going to be very grim this year. Imported foods such as cheese, coffee, olive oil, etc. And this also goes back into the container shipment shortage that's also happening as well. Chlorine for pools, corn, oxygen, and something I covered in a previous video, the labor shortage. And I just wanted to, as the first video after a small temporary break, I just wanted to highlight these things because Biden is really trying to return us to what him and his administration and the mainstream media is trying to call normal. But normal has never existed. If normal to them means going back to corporations literally fucking not just the government, but fucking over the American people, I don't want that normal. If that means that the Pentagon is going to try to keep doing their push for democracy in other places and side with people who are clearly in the wrong, but can't hold themselves accountable to see that, I don't want that normal. If it means more surveillance because the FBI and the CIA want to use bullshit events like January 6th to enforce more so on public free speech, I don't want that normal. But Biden is so convinced that he's so convinced that him returning the soul of America is going to make things normal. It's not. You're not returning anything. You're not restoring anything. You're just causing more harm. And you trying to have your cake and eat it too by coming off as FDR, passing all these bills to help the infrastructure, getting bipartisan support. It's a bunch of bullshit. Because you know how you truly restore the soul of America? You start from the bottom up. And everything you're doing so far has only been focusing at the top. Because regardless if you want to see it or not, you're just another politician to feed into the trickle-down economics. The trickle-down ego. And it doesn't work. And inshallah, this keeps getting brought up more. So people can see the failures of your administration already. I can't imagine what the next 3 years are going to be about. Hope to God Kamala doesn't become the next president, because it might continue. We might have to do a video about her, but again, inshallah, I hope that this keeps being talked about so people can know that we can't trust you, Biden. It was wrong to think that you could be a savior. You're old, you're white, and you represent a old white America. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work.